Your nan slept through the 1976 heatwave in a brick terrace with no fan, no air conditioning, and a bedroom facing due south. And she slept better than you do tonight with your 400-pound tower fan from Argos. She knew 25 tricks that got quietly forgotten the moment we could buy cold air in a box. Number 14 is something the bedding industry spent decades convincing us to throw away. And number 3, sleep scientists have only just worked out why it works. And it involves a part of your body you would never think to cool. Hit subscribe, because after this video you will never sweat through a British summer night again. Let us count down. Number 25. Curtains drawn by 9 in the morning. Your mum did not wait for the bedroom to get hot. She walked upstairs after breakfast, pulled the curtains shut, and closed the windows tight. It looked backwards. Surely you want fresh air on a hot day. But she understood something we forgot. A south-facing bedroom window acts like a greenhouse, and once the heat is in, it is in until midnight. Heavy-lined curtains from the market, maybe 30 bob for a pair in 1962, blocked the sun before it could cook the mattress. By 10 at night, the room was several degrees cooler than the landing. Modern websites call this passive cooling and act like it was invented in Scandinavia. Your grandmother called it common sense. Number 24. The frozen hot water bottle. That rubber hot water bottle from Boots, the one that cost about 4 shillings and lasted 20 years, worked both ways. On a sweltering July night, your mum filled it 3/4 full with cold water and put it in the freezer compartment after tea. By bedtime, it was a solid block of ice wrapped in rubber. She slipped it into a pillowcase, never bare rubber against skin, and tucked it at the foot of the bed or against the small of your back. The ice melted slowly over hours, pulling heat out of the bedding until 2 in the morning. We now pay £25 for gel cooling pads that do the same job, worse, and split after one summer. The Boots bottle is probably still in your parents' airing cupboard right now. Number 23. The damp sheet at the window. This one came back from Egypt and India with soldiers, and stayed in British bedrooms for 100 years. Your grandmother wrung out an old cotton sheet in cold water, not dripping, just properly damp, and hung it over the open bedroom window on a still, hot evening. As air moved through the wet fabric, the evaporating water cooled it, dropping the temperature of the breeze by several degrees before it reached the bed. It is the exact principle behind a 300-pound evaporative cooler from Curry's, achieved with a worn-out sheet that would otherwise have become dusters. The trick was to re-wet it before you got into bed. On the hottest nights of 1959, whole streets had pale sheets hanging in upstairs windows like flags of surrender. Except nobody was surrendering. They were winning. Number 22. The bowl of ice in front of the fan. When electric fans finally arrived in ordinary homes, a little Woolworths desk fan cost around £2 in the late 1960s. Your mum doubled its power for free. She filled a washing-up bowl with ice cubes or a block from the ice compartment and set it directly in front of the blades. The fan dragged air across the melting ice and threw genuinely cold, slightly humid air across the bed instead of just pushing warm air around. A tea towel over the bowl, corners trailing in the ice water, made it last even longer. Air conditioning cost more than a month's wages back then. This cost nothing but the ice. Try it tonight and you will wonder why you ever looked at £350 portable units that sound like a Lancaster bomber. Number 21. The sash window secret. If you grew up in a Victorian terrace, your bedroom had a sash window, and your grandmother knew how to play it like an instrument. She opened it at the top and the bottom, equal amounts. Most people only ever open the bottom. But hot air collects at the ceiling, and opening the top sash lets it escape while cooler air draws in through the bottom gap. The window ventilates itself with no fan, no electricity, no noise. Victorian engineers designed sashes to do precisely this, which is why the top half moves at all. When the 1980s brought UPVC replacements that only tilt one way, an entire nation lost its built-in cooling system and never even noticed. If you still have working sashes, you are sitting on Victorian air conditioning. Use it. Number 20. The pillowcase in the fridge. About an hour before bed, your mum slipped your cotton pillowcase into a paper bag and put it in the fridge, or in winter months of a hot spell, the cold larder shelf. That chilled cotton against your cheek dropped your skin temperature instantly, and here is why it mattered. The head and face are packed with blood vessels close to the surface, so cooling them cools the whole body faster than anywhere else. The chill only lasted 20 minutes, but that is all you need, because the hardest part of sleeping in heat is falling asleep in the first place. Once you are under, your body copes. Total cost, nothing. Modern gel cooling pillows cost £45 and go warm in the same 20 minutes. Number 19. Percale cotton sheets. Before the great nylon disaster of the 1970s, and we will get to that, British beds were dressed in plain woven cotton percale. Your grandmother's sheets from the Co-op or Marks & Spencer, maybe 15 shillings each, were crisp, tightly woven, and did two things brilliantly. They let air pass through the weave, and they absorbed sweat and released it as evaporation, which actively cooled you. A percale sheet actually feels cold when you first slide in, that lovely crack of cool fabric your nan's spare bed always had. Washed hard and dried on the line, they lasted 30 years, getting softer and cooler with every wash. Today we buy £12 microfiber sheets that trap heat like a crisp packet and wonder why we are sweating. The answer was hanging on your grandmother's washing line all along. Now, here is where things get interesting. Number 18. The pulse point flannel. Your grandmother did not try to cool her whole body. She cooled 6 small spots. A flannel wrung out in cold water, pressed to the wrists, the sides of the neck, the backs of the knees, and behind the ears. It looks like nothing. But here is the wild part. Those are exactly the places where major blood vessels run closest to the skin, and researchers studying heat stress have confirmed that cooling the wrists and neck lowers the temperature of blood traveling to the brain and core faster than cooling anywhere else on the body. Athletes at the Olympics now use ice wraps on precisely these points. Your nan was doing it in a back bedroom in Rotherham in 1955 with a flannel that cost sixpence. She would drape it across her neck and be asleep in 10 minutes, while the rest of the street tossed and turned. Sports science caught up 70 years later. Number 17. Talcum powder on the sheets. That tin of Yardley or Johnson's talc on your grandmother's dressing table was not just for after the bath. On humid August nights, she shook a light dusting across the bottom sheet before bed. The powder absorbed moisture, so instead of skin sticking to damp cotton, you slid in dry and stayed dry. It stopped that horrible clammy feeling where the sheet clings to your legs and every movement wakes you up, and it kept the bed smelling of lavender instead of, well, August. A tin cost about 1 6 and lasted a whole summer. Americans in the Deep South called it powdering the bed. British mums never gave it a name. It was just what you did when the nights turned sticky. Second pattern break, and controversy incoming. Number 16. The lukewarm bath, not the cold shower. Here is where the modern advice gets it completely wrong, and your grandmother got it completely right. Every summer, magazines and websites tell you to take a cold shower before bed. Do not. Cold water shocks your blood vessels into slamming shut. Your body panics, decides it is losing heat, and fires up its internal heating. 20 minutes later, you are hotter than before you got in. Your grandmother ran a tepid bath, barely warm, just below body temperature, and soaked for 10 minutes before bed. The lukewarm water gently opened the blood vessels in her skin, and when she got out, all that heat radiated away into the evening air. Her core temperature dropped, and a dropping core temperature is the actual biological trigger for sleep. Studies at Loughborough University's Sleep Research Centre have confirmed the warm bath effect. But here is what nobody says out loud. There is no product to sell you with this trick. No gadget, no gel, no £200 climate control mattress topper. Just a bath, runs slightly cool. So the industry stays quiet, and we keep buying cooling technology to fix a problem a tap solves for free. Number 15. Sleeping downstairs. When the heatwave really dug in, your grandmother did something modern families never even consider. She abandoned the bedroom entirely. Heat rises, and by 10 at night, An upstairs bedroom in a British brick house can be 5 or 6 degrees warmer than the front room below it. So on the worst nights of 1976, mattresses came down the stairs, cushions came off the settee, and whole families camped on the parlor floor with the window cracked open. Children thought it was a great adventure. Parents knew it was survival. The front room, shaded all day with a solid floor that stayed cool, was the best bedroom in the house from June to August. We now suffer upstairs on principle because sleeping in the lounge feels improper. Your Nan had no such pride. She had 8 hours of sleep instead. Number 14, the cellular cotton blanket. This is the one the bedding industry buried. Before the continental duvet conquered Britain in the 1970s, sold to us as the 10-second bed, British beds were made with layers. A cotton sheet, and over it a cellular blanket, that waffle weave cotton blanket full of little holes, about £1 from the co-op. Those holes were the whole point. The open weave let heat escape upward while still giving you the weight and cover your body wants for sleep. Because almost nobody can sleep with nothing on top of them, even in a heat wave. You could add a layer at midnight when it cooled, or kick one off at 2. A duvet is all or nothing, a 10-tog prison. When duvets swept in, department stores made fortunes, and the humble cellular blanket was demoted to hospital wards and cot beds. Ask any nurse. Hospitals never gave them up because they work. Wards use them to this day to regulate patient temperature layer by layer. The NHS kept the secret. Your bed lost it. Number 13. Cold water in the hot water bottle. Simpler than the freezer trick at number 24 and your great-grandmother's version, because she had no freezer. She ran the cold tap until it was properly cold, filled the stone or rubber bottle, and put it between the sheets an hour before bed. Not freezing, just cool, which meant no condensation soaking the mattress and no aching cold against the skin. It quietly absorbed the day's heat out of the bedding, so you climbed into a bed that felt fresh instead of pre-warmed like an oven. In houses with a cold cellar, the bottle went down there after breakfast and came up colder still. A stone bottle cost a couple of shillings and outlived the person who bought it. Number 12. Tin foil and whitewash on the glass. On skylights, on south-facing windows in box rooms, in attic bedrooms under the slates, your grandfather used 2 tricks. A wash of whitewash brushed thinly on the outside of the glass in June, scrubbed off in September, bounced the sun's heat away before it ever entered the room. Greenhouse growers still do it. They call it shading paint. The quicker version was ordinary kitchen foil, shiny side out, taped to the inside of the glass. It looked dreadful, and tidy-minded landlords grumbled about the state of the windows. But foil reflects the vast majority of radiant heat, and an attic room that was unbearable at 9 became sleepable. We now pay £60 a roll for reflective window film that does the same job as 1 and 3p worth of baker foil. The neighbours may talk. They are the ones lying awake. Number 11. The salad tea. Your grandmother changed the menu when the weather changed, and it was not just about standing over a hot stove. A heavy meal, a roast, a sweat pudding, chips, forces your body to fire up digestion for hours, and digestion generates real, measurable internal heat. Scientists call it the thermic effect of food. Your Nan called it too hot for a dinner. So summer tea was cold ham, boiled eggs, lettuce from the garden, tomatoes, bread and butter, and a bit of salad cream, eaten by 6 o'clock sharp. By bedtime, digestion was done, and the body's furnace was idling. Compare that to us, eating a takeaway curry at 9 and climbing into bed at 11, radiating like a storage heater. The 3-hour gap between tea and bed was not manners. It was thermodynamics, taught in an apron. Number 10. Turning the mattress to the cool side. Every mattress your grandmother owned was double-sided and stuffed with flock, wool or horsehair, natural fibers that breathe. Twice a year she flipped it as maintenance, but in a heat wave she flipped it at night because the underside, facing the cool air beneath the bed, was always fresher than the top you had been lying on. 30 seconds of effort, an instantly cooler bed. Try that with a modern memory foam mattress. You cannot, they are one-sided. And worse, Memory foam is closed-cell petroleum sponge that traps body heat so effectively that overheating is the single most common complaint about it. Your grandmother's flock mattress from the 1950s, maybe £8 new, breathed all night long. We paid £900 for foam that cooks us, and then another £150 for a cooling topper to undo the damage. She would have laughed until she cried. Third pattern break. Number 9. The through draft at dusk. This is the trick that separates people who understand a house from people who merely live in one. All day, the house stayed sealed, curtains shut, heat locked out. Then, the moment the outside air turned cooler than the inside air, usually around 9 or 10 on a summer evening, your grandfather went through the house like a man on a mission. Back door open, front door on the chain, open 6 inches, landing window open. Every internal door wedged. Within minutes, a river of cool evening air was flowing through the entire house, flushing out the day's heat from the bricks themselves. Engineers now call this purge ventilation and write it into building regulations. Your grandfather called it airing the house, and he learned it from his father. The physics is simple. A single open window does almost nothing. Air needs a way in and a way out to actually move. Get the through draft right for 1 hour at dusk, and the bedrooms upstairs drop several degrees before anyone goes up. It cost nothing, it needed nothing, and it worked in 1936 exactly as well as it works tonight. Number 8. The chilled wheat bag. That fabric bag of wheat or rice your nan warmed in the oven for her bad shoulder in January had a summer job too. Into the fridge it went after tea, and by bedtime it was a soft, flexible, gently cold weight that molded around a neck or an ankle. Unlike ice, it never burned the skin or dripped. Unlike a frozen bottle, it bent to fit wherever it was needed, usually the back of the neck, and stayed cool for a good hour, long enough to fall asleep. Home sewn from scraps and a pound of pudding rice, it was the cheapest cooling device ever made in Britain. The same item now sells as a cooling therapy pillow for £22. Same rice, same cotton, your nan just did not charge herself for the labor. Number 7. Eau de Cologne on the temples. On a stifling night, your grandmother reached for the little bottle of 4711 cologne on her dressing table, a few shillings from the chemist, and dabbed it on her temples, wrists, and the back of her neck. Alcohol evaporates far faster than water, and evaporation pulls heat, so each dab delivered a sharp, instant chill exactly where the blood runs shallow. The scent of citrus and lavender did not hurt either, on a night when the whole street smelled of hot tarmac. Ladies carried cologne-soaked handkerchiefs to church for exactly this reason, a pocket-sized cooling system a century before anyone said the words personal climate device. The Victorians splashed lavender water on the pillow itself. It cooled, it calmed, and it made the bedroom smell like a garden instead of a greenhouse. Number 6. Cotton on the body, always. In the 1970s, Britain fell for nylon nighties and brushed nylon sheets, drip dry, no ironing, bright colors from BHS and Brentford nylons at prices that undercut cotton by half. And an entire nation started waking at 3 a.m., soaked, static and boiling, without ever connecting the cause. Nylon does not absorb moisture. Sweat has nowhere to go, so it sits on the skin, the fabric clings, and the heat builds. Your grandmother never trusted it. She stayed in her plain cotton nightdress, loose, woven, absorbent, and slept dry while a generation cooked in petrochemicals. Here is the detail everyone misses. Loose cotton beats sleeping naked. Bare skin lets sweat pool wherever skin touches skin or mattress, while loose cotton lifts moisture away and evaporates it, cooling you as it goes. Brentford nylons went bust in 1976, the hottest summer of the century. There is a lesson in that timing. Fourth pattern break. Number 5. The separate bed's secret. Time for the trick nobody wants to talk about. Another human being in your bed is a 37-degree radiator running all night, pumping out roughly 100 watts of heat, about the same as an old light bulb, inches from your skin. Your grandparents knew it, and they were ruthless about it. In plenty of respectable mid-century marriages, July meant one of them decamped to the spare room or the twin bed, and nobody's feelings were hurt because 8 hours of sleep mattered more than appearances. Those twin beds in every 1950s bedroom suite were not prudishness, whatever the sitcoms told you. They were climate control. And if separate rooms were a step too far, there was the starfish compromise. Each sleeper spread wide on their own side, so heat could escape from every limb. Sleep researchers today confirm that couples sharing a bed in hot weather wake each other constantly through combined heat and movement. Scandinavians solve it with 2 single duvets on one bed. Your grandparents solved it with a spare room and no discussion. Both beat lying back to back at 2 in the morning, silently blaming each other for the temperature. Number 4. Damp net curtains. Every terrace window in Britain had net curtains, and in a heatwave they earned their keep twice over. First, they filtered direct sunlight, while still letting air through, gentler than blackout curtains, better than bare glass. But the real trick came at night. Your grandmother took a plant mister, or flicked water from her fingertips, and dampened the nets with the window open behind them. Every breath of breeze passing through the wet mesh was cooled by evaporation. The same physics as the damp sheet at number 23, but subtler and invisible from the street, which mattered on a road where appearances counted. A pair of nets cost a few shillings and turned every window into a quiet cooling machine. When nets went out of fashion, dismissed as dated, the cooling went with them. The neighbors who kept theirs slept better and never said a word. Number 3. Cold water on the feet. Here is the one that sounds mad until the science lands. Just before bed, your grandmother stood in the bath and ran the cold tap over her feet and ankles for a minute. Some went further. A pair of thin cotton socks dipped in cold water, wrung out hard and worn to bed. Wet socks in bed, deliberately. Every child who ever saw it thought their nan had lost her mind. Then, in recent years, sleep scientists studying thermoregulation found the explanation. The feet, along with the hands, are covered in special blood vessels called arteriovenous anastomoses, direct connections that exist purely to dump heat out of the body's core. They are the radiator valves of the human body. Cool the feet, and those vessels shed core heat at a rate nowhere else on the body can match. And a falling core temperature is precisely the signal the brain waits for before it lets you sleep. Researchers now talk about warming or cooling the distal skin to control sleep onset. Your grandmother talked about giving her feet a rinse. 60 years apart, the same discovery, except hers was free, and she never wrote a paper about it. Number 2. 1 foot out of the covers. The simplest trick on this entire list, and one you have probably done without knowing why it works. On a warm night, your grandmother did not throw off all the covers. She kept the blanket on and slid 1 foot, or 1 whole leg, out into the open air. That foot became a heat vent for the entire body, all those heat-dumping vessels from number 3, exposed to moving air, pulling warmth out of the core while the rest of her stayed covered enough to feel secure. Because that is the other half of the trick. The brain does not like sleeping fully uncovered. It is ancient wiring, and most people who strip the bed entirely just lie there feeling exposed and still hot. 1 foot out solves both problems at once. Sleep clinics now genuinely recommend it by name. Your nan was doing it in a back bedroom in 1948, and if you asked her why, she would have said, "Because it works, love," and gone back to sleep. And number 1. The hot cup of tea. The most British trick of all, and the one that sounds like pure madness. On a sweltering evening, your grandmother did not reach for iced squash. She put the kettle on. A hot cup of tea, on a hot night, an hour before bed. The whole street did it, and the whole street was right. Researchers at the University of Ottawa finally tested it and found that drinking a hot drink in warm, dry conditions triggers a sweating response out of all proportion to the heat of the drink itself. Receptors in the stomach tell the brain heat incoming. The brain opens every pore, and the sweat that follows evaporates and carries away more heat than the tea ever added. The result, a lower body temperature than if you had drunk something cold. There is one condition. The sweat must be able to evaporate, so it works in a breeze or in front of a fan, not in clinging humidity. But on a dry July evening with the back door open, the physics is on your nan's side. Cold drinks feel nice for 30 seconds. The hot cuppa cools you for an hour. Every builder, every farmer, every grandmother knew it. Science signed the paperwork decades later. So here is my challenge. Pick 3 of these tonight. Curtains shut by 9 tomorrow morning. The through draft at dusk, 1 foot out of the covers. Then come back and tell me in the comments whether your nan knew more about sleeping cool than the air conditioning industry wants to admit. I have done the cold water bottle, the lukewarm bath, and the hot cup of tea all in one evening, and I slept through a 29-degree night with the duvet half on. Tell me which trick your family swore by, and which one you thought was madness until you tried it. Because these were never just habits. They were physics, learned the hard way, in bedrooms with no off switch for the heat. Your grandmother knew, now you know too.